In the misty valleys of an ancient world where towering cliffs echoed with the whispers of prehistoric times, there lived a young hominid named Kavi. Imagine a young man, not quite Homo sapiens, but our distant relative from the past, perhaps a Neanderthal or Homo erectus. He had shaggy brown hair that fell over his intelligent eyes, framing his determined jawline. His skin, a rich mahogany color, bore the marks of his adventurous spirit, each scar telling a tale of his daring explorations. But it was his eyes that truly set him apart, those bright amber orbs that seemed to hold the curiosity of the entire ancient world. From the moment he could walk, Kavi felt an insatiable wanderlust within him. While other hominids of his tribe followed the familiar paths, content with the predictability of their routines, Kavi found himself drawn to the unexplored, the untamed wilderness beyond the horizon. With each sunrise, he would steal small pebbles, carefully selecting them for their smoothness and weight, arranging them in patterns on the ground before his tribe awoke. These weren't just rocks to Kavi, they were tokens of a world waiting to be understood. He didn't know why, but he felt a deep urge to explore, to discover, to learn. What was this force that drove him? Why did the call of the unknown resonate so strongly in his soul? One day, driven by his unquenchable thirst for exploration, Kavi decided to venture beyond the known territories of his tribe. He packed some dried meat and fruit, slung a crudely made bag over his shoulder, and set off towards the towering cliffs that marked the edge of their familiar hunting grounds. Little did he know that this seemingly ordinary day would turn into an extraordinary adventure filled with challenges, discoveries, and most importantly, a journey of self-discovery. As he stepped into the unknown, the forest grew denser, the paths more unclear, and the silence more profound. Alone for the first time, Kavi began to feel the weight of his journey. Fear, doubt, and loneliness crept in like shadows, testing the limits of his courage, but then something caught his eye. It was a sound, a rhythmic thump followed by guttural grunts echoing through the ancient trees. Intrigued and slightly apprehensive, Kavi decided to investigate. The sound led him to a clearing, and there he saw a sight that made him freeze in his tracks. In the center of the clearing stood a tall, imposing figure. This wasn't any ordinary hominid. It was a Neanderthal, a strong, stocky human ancestor known for its robustness and resilience. The Neanderthal, with his broad shoulders, thick chest, and long arms, was a picture of raw strength. His face was weathered, his brow ridge prominent, and his jawline strong. But it was his eyes that truly commanded attention, sharp and piercing, reflecting a lifetime of experiences and knowledge. Despite his initial fear, Kavi couldn't help but be mesmerized by the sheer power and grace with which the Neanderthal wielded the heavy wooden club in his hand. As if sensing Kavi's gaze, the Neanderthal turned, revealing a face etched with the stories of countless battles and hunts. His gaze was intense, his expression stoic, but there was a hint of curiosity in his eyes that mirrored Kavi's own. Kavi, summoning all his courage, stepped forward. "Hello," he said tentatively, his voice echoing in the stillness of the clearing. The Neanderthal regarded him for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then, to Kavi's surprise, he grunted softly and gestured with his chin towards the ground. Kavi understood. He was being invited to sit. As they sat in companionable silence for a while, Kavi found himself relaxing a bit. The tension that had coiled in his shoulders eased, replaced by a newfound sense of calm. It was then that Kavi noticed a small campfire a few feet away, its embers glowing like the embers of his own curiosity. With a nod of thanks to the Neanderthal, Kavi walked towards the fire, knelt down, and started to arrange the stones in a circular pattern. This wasn't just a random arrangement. It was a pattern that his tribe had used for storytelling, a way to recall important events in their history. "I am Kavi," he began, his voice gaining confidence, "and I come from a tribe of hominids who live beyond these cliffs." As Kavi spoke, he continued arranging the stones, each movement precise and deliberate, as if laying the foundation for the tale he was about to tell. The Neanderthal watched intently, his piercing eyes reflecting the flickering flames of the campfire. He was engaged, his body language open and attentive. Kavi talked about his world, about his tribe's traditions, their hunts, and their daily life. And as he spoke, he noticed the Neanderthal occasionally grunting, nodding his head in understanding, or adding a word here and there. It was a new experience for Kavi, sharing his world with someone who might understand it differently, yet still connect with the essence of his story. After finishing his tale, Kavi turned to the Neanderthal, a question forming on his lips. "What is your name?" he asked, extending the question with an inquisitive tilt of his head. The Neanderthal considered the question for a moment, his gaze fixed on the dancing flames. "Roko," he finally replied, his voice a deep rumble that echoed the strength that radiated from his very being. Kavi liked the sound of the name. It was strong, solid, like a rock. Over the next few hours, they shared what little food they had, a meager meal that nevertheless warmed their bellies and their spirits. As the night deepened, they decided to spend the night by the fire. The stars twinkled above them, silently narrating their celestial stories. Kavi, lying on a bed of soft leaves, gazed up at the sky. He thought about his life, his tribe, and the vast, mysterious world that lay beyond. Why do we exist? He asked suddenly, startling even himself with the depth of his own curiosity. Roko, seasoned by life's many lessons, turned to Kavi, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "We exist," he began, his voice resonating with wisdom, "to learn, to grow, and to leave our mark on this world. You have taken the first step, little one, by venturing beyond the known. That in itself is a reason to exist, to explore, to discover." Kavi pondered his words. Was this journey just about him? Was he meant to discover something not just for himself, but for others too? As the night wore on, they talked about life, existence, and the mysteries that lay hidden in the vast expanse of their world. When the first rays of sunlight touched the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, it was time for Kavi to move on. He had learned much from Roko, not just about survival, but about courage, resilience, and the quiet strength that comes from facing the unknown. As Kavi prepared to leave, he looked at Roko, his admiration evident in his bright amber eyes. "Thank you," he said, his voice echoing the sincerity of his emotions. "For teaching me, for guiding me, and for showing me that I am braver than I think." Roko nodded, his gaze steady and encouraging. "You are indeed brave, Kavi. And remember, strength is not just physical, it's mental and emotional too. You carry that strength within you." With a final nod, Kavi turned and headed in the direction of his home. As he walked, he thought about Roko's words. Strength isn't just about muscles and bones, he realized. It's about the will to explore, to learn, and to be kind. He walked with a lighter step now, his heart brimming with gratitude and his mind filled with new perspectives. He was no longer just a curious hominid. He was Kavi, the brave, the one who ventured into the unknown and returned with stories and strength. And so, under the watchful gaze of the ancients, Kavi continued his journey, his path illuminated by the lessons of the past and his heart guided by the wisdom of the ages.